Have you ever tried running a cloth simulation only to end up with this? You've tweaked settings, increased quality steps, watched a dozen tutorials, and somehow it still refuses to behave. Well, don't worry. In this video, we're going to go through the most common reasons why your cloth simulation is failing, and more importantly, how to fix them. To keep things fair, after every failed attempt, I'll close Blender completely and reopen the exact same project before testing the next fix. That way we know exactly which setting solved the problem. Here's the character and the cloth we'll be using throughout this video, all inside a blend file. I'm going to deliberately run the simulation as it is, and as you can see, the result isn't exactly what we're hoping for. So let's start fixing it. The first thing you should always check is the scale of both your cloth object and anything it's colliding with.
Okay.
So I'll select both objects, press Ctrl+A and apply the scale. Now using Blender's default cloth and collision settings, let's run the simulation again and see if that was the culprit. Well, that didn't exactly go according to plan. If your simulation still looks like the air is trying to rip the cloth off your character while leaving your character untouched, don't panic. Blender isn't broken, it's just giving you another opportunity to question your life choices. So let's move on to the next fix. One setting that surprisingly fixes a lot of cloth simulation problems is single-sided under the collision settings. So what's actually happening here? When single-sided is enabled, Blender treats your collision object as a completely solid object. In other words, the moment the cloth clips through the surface even for a split second, Blender immediately tries to push it back out. The problem is that this correction can sometimes be far too aggressive, causing the cloth to jitter, shake uncontrollably, or even explode all over the place. If your simulation looks anything like this, show broken cloth, there's a good chance this setting is the culprit. So if you're working with a closed object like a furniture or any solid mesh, try turning single-sided off and run the simulation again. Sometimes that one little checkbox is all it takes to get Blender to finally cooperate. If you understood what I explained about single-sided, then you probably already know that turning it off isn't going to fix the particular problem we're seeing here, but just in case you're curious, here's what it looks like with single-sided disabled. As you can see, the result is still completely broken, so in this case, that wasn't the issue. That brings us to the final fix, increase in scale. I'm going to open the exact same blend file and this time press play button at frame 0 to see how it goes. Now that didn't play out as expected, so the next thing I want to try is to increase the scale of both the cloth and the collision object. After that, press your space button at frame 0 to run the simulation again, and there it is. This time the simulation works perfectly. One thing you'll probably notice is how much faster the baking process is compared to the previous attempts. That's actually a good sign. When Blender spends ages baking and the cloth is still exploding, something is usually wrong. But when everything is set up correctly, the simulation often bakes much more smoothly. And I also noticed the bigger the scale, the better the cloth's fluidity. You can proceed to change some settings like the quality step and turn on self-collision on the cloth to get a good cloth simulation. So if your cloth simulation is acting up, these are the 3 things I recommend checking first. Apply the scale on both the cloth and the collision object. If the issue looks like violent jittering or the cloth keeps popping through the mesh, try turning single-sided off. And if neither of those works, increase the size of your objects, apply the scale again and rerun the simulation. You can add subdivision surface and solidify modifier, ensure they are beneath the cloth modifier for extra smoothness. For some reason, Blender's cloth simulation doesn't perform very well on extremely small objects. Simply scaling the entire setup up can completely solve problems that no amount of tweaking the simulation settings will fix. Hopefully one of these solutions gets your cloth simulation working again. If this video saved you hours of frustration, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more Blender tips and tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.